Hello, Mr. Farage. My name is Jordan Harms. I'm a student at Georgetown University. And props to the man who suggested you're Donald Trump, because if I was British, I definitely would vote for you. My question is two-pronged, and they're both similar in theme. One primary concern, you touched on it briefly, about the Islamic State. We call it ISIS or ISIL, whichever suits us. But one primary concern that I think the European Union faces is the problem of foreign fighters. And I'm sure you know especially about these British citizens who regularly travel to join ISIS, not necessarily because they have any love for Sharia law, but simply because they're disgusted by what they see in their own country and in their own societies. Especially now with the fate, with the recent deal of Iran and in the nuclear scheme of things, what do you see? What is the best strategy that the European Union, or at least in terms of Britain, can do to assuage this this problem of ISIS, this problem of foreign fighters?
Okay. All right. On the Donald Trump point, seriously, I do think some of the things he's picked up on in the last few weeks are very similar to the kind of themes that we picked up on in British politics, a feeling that, you know, there is a centralised bureaucracy in Washington, maybe not connecting with some of the concerns of ordinary people. Look, we've been very, very good over the last decade and more about worrying what's happening in the Middle East and North Africa and Afghanistan. And we've been very busy intervening in all these places, and we've been almost negligent in the growth of jihadism within our own communities. And when I said last year, to the usual howls of outrage, when I said last year that we now have a fifth column living inside our own countries, they carry our passports, they speak our language, and they hate us. They want to kill us. They want to overthrow our culture, our constitution, our whole way of life. My own view is we should worry a bit more about what's happening within our countries than what is happening across the rest of the world. And I think that is going to be the politics of the future. I think we've intervened too much militarily around the world without always thinking about what this may mean for the longer term. And we must focus on our own countries. And, you know, part of that, it seems to me, needs to be, we have got to be more assertive in saying who we are as a nation, what our values are, what those that built your great country and built mine, what they represented. In the case of my country, we actually have a Christian constitution. We have a Church of England. It is the established state church. And yet our leaders in recent years, whether they're political or even some of our bishops, appear to be almost ashamed to stand up and defend our culture and who we are. So we need to be more muscular about this. And the man that I admire hugely from the Conservative movement over the course of the last sort of 30, 40 years is the Australian John Howard. You know, John Howard, who won 4 elections, and Howard, who said, you know, his big message to immigrants coming to Australia is, you know, if you've got a trade or skill to bring and you can make this a better country, you're welcome. And we couldn't care less whether you're black or white or yellow or whatever you are. We couldn't care less what your religion is. We're not interested. But if you come here, you speak our language, you integrate with our society, you become part of our Australian dream. If you don't want to do those things, don't bother coming in the first place. And isn't that what we need to do, to be a bit more assertive? On these, just quickly, on the issue of foreign fighters, David Cameron's big push now is that when they find out that someone wants to leave the country and go and fight in Syria for ISIS or ISIL or whatever we call it, that we now stop them leaving the country. Well, I'd pay their ticket and then take away their passport and make sure they never ever come back.